Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast presented by Bet365. We are part of the Volume Podcast Network. I am Chad Millman of the Action Network. Today is our Tuesday, Week 7 episode. We will break down the entire slate of NFL games. We will discuss our exec decision and our Simon Says and start to narrow down the options for 5 faves to put into the Favorites Podcast $100,000 pro football pick'em contest. We went 2-3 this past week, and considering how the favorites did, how road favorites did, going 9-0 after the Bills won last night and after the Bengals won on Sunday night, those are classic spots for Simon and I to fade. The fact we went 2-3, I am gonna take that because we had the full experience of life betting games this weekend. It was like parenting, working, eating, drinking, the roller coaster of everything that we choose to do on a daily basis. And we're going to do it all again this week, live from our Tommy John home studios. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, my companion, my compadre, my BFF professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Chad. Yeah, it's the best Sunday ever for the betting public, and capped off by a brutal loss for me in that Giants game. And then last night, I don't know if you watched that game because I know you're traveling. That was the worst football game I've watched in years. I mean, the refs made it unwatchable. The missed kicks, all of it. Even the stupid roughing the passer penalty was just brutal. And Aaron Rodgers, it's everything Chad hates. These referees controlling these games. I'm with you. I try to hold firm because to me there is no such thing as bad football because I just love it so much. But fucking A, Chad, was that some bad football last night?
You know, Simon, I'm so glad you said that. I was watching the game on my flight last night, and it's excruciating. And you watch these games over the course of a weekend, and it feels like, anecdotally, this is my judgment. What is it? 20, 30%, maybe more of big plays are either negated or impacted by penalties. Like last night, the Jets had a long throw to Garrett Wilson down the middle of the field. They called PI, and they also called like illegal formation.
Yeah.
And these illegal formation penalties are ruining the game. They truly are, because it is impossible to watch. You see the flag go up as soon as the ball is snapped. You know it's a dead play. You know it's not an offside, so you know somebody didn't line up with their helmet on the midline. You know somebody lined up uncovered on the line. They got to figure this out in the competition committee. I'm serious. I'm not talking about it as a bettor. I'm talking about it as a fan. Like, there's no rhythm to these games. There's no predictability. Every good play gets called back because of something stupid. And I know the players should understand how to line up. The coaches should coach these guys to know where to be. But clearly something is missing. And I don't understand the value of some of these plays. You're not getting that much of an edge. If you're Jawan Taylor and you're lining up in the backfield, that's one thing. If you're lining up with nobody covering you as a receiver, you're 3 feet off the line of scrimmage, that is impacting nothing. Like some of these rules, it is infuriating to watch these games. I was so glad to miss so much of that game last night.
Yeah, and like I said to my buddy, I was watching the game. I was like, if this is 1 p.m., it doesn't matter. Sure, call the game as tight as you possibly can. This is a prime time game. You can call holding penalty on every single snap. We always talk about it all the time. Do you really need to call it on every important third down or every time a touchdown scored? It's like, okay, it just was a brutal product. Like you said, Goodell made a call. Like there's no way they're going to let this continue where, we saw it a couple of weeks ago in the Thursday night games. There's too much referees. Same happened last night. It's just these primetime games, we can't let the stars of the show be the refs. It needs to be the players.
22 penalties last night. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. You mentioned roughing the passer. Even Rodgers said post-game last night, those weren't roughing the passers on
Did he?
him.
Yeah, because it was terrible.
It was terrible. So anyways, yeah, like last night I felt like we were cursed by the history of the Meadowlands. We had a chance with the Giants to get that cover. Chase Brown fumbles. The ball goes through a giant defender's hands as he's trying to recover it. Last night, Josh Allen by the goal line, going to score on another drive. He fumbles. The ball goes through a Jets defender's hands as he tries to recover it. Like, just critical Meadowlands misbounces for us on both the Bengals and Giants, and the Jets and the Bills. Both end up being losers for us. Feel lucky to have escaped with a 2-3 week. In a moment, we'll recap the results of week 6 in our contests. We'll announce the winner of our big weekly cash prize. If you haven't yet, be sure to sign up for the free Favorites Podcast $100,000 Pro Football Pick'em contest presented by Bet365. Just visit favorites.actionnetwork.com. As a reminder, the Favorites Podcast is presented by Bet365. And now, new Bet365 customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code FAVORITES, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. All right. Congrats to week 6 first place winner Z401. We actually had 9 entries go 5-0, get within 2 yards of the Monday Night Football tiebreaker, but only 2 entries nailed the tiebreaker exactly because Z401 submitted first. Z takes home a $2,000 prize. Well done. As always, Matt Mitchell has selected his Producer's Cup Award for the entry that finished dead last in the contest. This week's Producer's Cup goes to John Patterson. Congrats on your 0-5 game week and missing the tiebreaker by 294 yards. John Patterson, please email Matt Mitchell at podcasts@actionnetwork.com to claim your prize. All right. I think we got to change the contest tiebreaker to number of penalty yards in these Monday night games because it's just getting ridiculous. Let's get into it. First game up. Thursday night football. We got a barn burner. Denver Broncos visiting the New Orleans Saints. Simon, last college football season, if we had Bo Nix playing Spencer Rattler, it might have been like the 8th game we might be interested in. Instead, we get it in prime time. And this line has moved quite a bit since it opened. It had already moved from New Orleans, like, I think 2.5 to 1 when we knew it was going to be Rattler. Now it's all of a sudden moved to New Orleans +2. Like, that seems like a ridiculous move to me. Bo Nix as a road favorite, we already felt bad that he was going to be a home favorite of a field goal. Give me your take here.
Bo versus Spencer, Chad. What a game to get you fired up. A good old Bo Spencer bowl game here.
Seriously.
It's gross, but you just nailed it, right? We're supposed to take the Saints here, especially off all this line movement. And I think it could be because Olave is out as well. We'll see who the healthy receivers are going to be for the Saints team. They have a lot of injured guys right now. So that's what the movement's based off of. Because of that, I'm going Broncos. I know it's tough. I can't believe I'm doing it, but I like to take the favorites on Thursday night. I mean, I talk all the time. There's a reason that the favorites historically, this is the spot you want to take them. And this week I really want to be on the home dogs. Here it's just tough for me to get there. Like the injuries, we talked about how they're going to catch up for the Saints team. How do they not catch up to a team that now has their number 1, number 2 receiver out, their best offensive linemen's out, and their starting quarterbacks out? So on the flip side, Denver, they've kind of, for the most part, escaped this injury bug. And I know they looked bad last week, but I was impressed by Bo Nix coming back in that game. Like the kid has a never die attitude. Turned that into a ball game last week where most rookie QBs kind of go woe is me and pack it in. And we did not see that last week for Bo Nix. So I bet this when it was Broncos -1. I'd still take it here at -2. Once it crosses 2.5, though, that's when I think the value really shifts to the Saints team. So I think if you want to take the Broncos here, I think there's still value on this number. It's just too much going on with this Saints team to really back them right now. I don't. If I have a clear picture that Olave is playing, maybe I'll change my tune here. But having a rookie quarterback now with a banged up offensive line, with his number 3, number 4 receiver being his number 1s, that to me is just too much for Spencer Rattler to overcome.
Yeah, well, the injuries are significant. My favorite thing about Bo Nix this year, I love the relationship that he's building with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And that fight that they got into in the middle of the game, the week before the Chargers, and at the post-game press conference or during the week, I can't remember what it was, someone asks both of them about it. And Sean Payton is giving sort of a thoughtful answer of Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback and he's learning. And Bo Nix gets the question and his answer is, oh, he just said, I love you. And I just said, I love you back. Like, the guy clearly has a great attitude. He is clearly fearless when it comes to this stuff. And as you noted, and he's done this multiple times now this season where his team is out of it. And go back to week 1 against the Seahawks. Like, he kept grinding, kept trying to learn, kept trying to make the right passes. And we see it. The Broncos are not pulling any punches. They are not giving him a rookie playbook. That first pass in the game against the Chargers, it was an interception, but they're going down the field. Like, Sean Payton is not pulling any punches here. Very impressive. I don't mind what you're saying. I don't want to bet it. I actually
No.
bet the under in this game. That's the first thing I did. I got it at 37.5. I think I will not touch a side in this game. I'm sick of refs ruining my primetime games. Pats versus Jags. Jags are 5.5-point favorites. This is the London game. So, like, the bad news for the Jags, there is real chaos on this team. Our guy, Doug Peterson, who we love, he's on his last legs here. Trevor Lawrence is regressing. A player on defense came out and said after the Bears game that they basically gave up in that game, which Doug Peterson refuted. The good news, favorites excel in the international games with the historically dominant Caleb Williams leading the Bears this past weekend. They're now 36-10-1 straight up, 32-15 against the spread. That's the favorites. What do you think here?
Just going to go back to what I did last week. I mean, Evan Gillis had an amazing stat. Before last week, rookie quarterbacks were 0-5 against the spread in this exact spot playing international games. 4 of those quarterbacks had lost by 14 plus. And, what we saw last week was Williams, he's different. I mean, we talked about, we never seen a rookie QB throw for 4 touchdowns in an international game. Like, that's
and run
historical.
for a touchdown and run for 5 touchdowns in the game. Let's just be clear. It's 5 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah, it's impressive. There's a reason this spread's that big, though, because people are asking, shouldn't we take Drake May? The Jags are terrible. They shouldn't be respected this much. It's too much of a movement. I think it's just based off those statistics where favorites usually cover. They usually do well in London. And then you mix in rookie quarterbacks tend to struggle in this exact spot. So you're right. Doug Peterson loses this game. He's guaranteed to be fired. I mean, this is a guaranteed fired spot for Doug Peterson. And as an Eagles fan, I've been hearing it. Is that Eagles, Nick Foles, Doug Peterson, the flukiest Super Bowl ever in NFL history? It's hard to debate it. Now that we're this many years later, it's like it is pretty crazy to think back that this man was able to motivate that team. And, I still think Doug's a good coach. It's just things are not bouncing their way for this Jaguars team. Like, everything that could go wrong keeps going wrong for them. Even in against your Bears team, like, opening drive, they get the ball back. He throws a pass in the second half. The guy fumbled it. You guys go right down the field, score another touchdown. It just everything keeps going wrong for this team. So thank God we can't put this one in contest, but I'll bet it as right now it's under 6 at 5.5. I'll take that number, but with very little confidence in my betting this Jaguars team.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot for Drake May. And
Terrible spot.
It is also a Jaguars team, like you said. Doug Peterson is coaching for his life here, and he might be at a point where he's just like, freaking fire me. Let me get back to the to South Jersey, get on the beach, go play some pool, have some beers. Like, this is just not what I was expecting at all. And the Jaguars owners said before the season, this is the best roster they've ever had. Like, they had a very high expectation. So all of a sudden, Trevor Lawrence in what will be, I think, year 4 or 5 will now be going on to his third new head coach and have an albatross of a massive deal hanging over the entire franchise. And by the way, they've signed a lot of guys to big deals, not just Trevor Lawrence. They got Josh Hines Allen too. So they have committed a lot of money to guys who are not getting it done. Ugly, ugly, ugly. Thank God we can't put it in the contest. Miami at Indianapolis. The Indianapolis Colts are 3.5-point favorites. Let me set a scene for you, okay? So yesterday I'm flying and I was working on my notes for the show today. And I got to this game. I could not think of who the quarterback was for the Miami Dolphins. Like, I honestly, I stared straight ahead for about 60 seconds, like in the sort of the gate area. An electronic billboard had different ads cycling through. Could not remember the name of the quarterback. I had to look it up. I typed in Miami Dolphins starting quarterback. The only name that came up was Tua. Finally, I looked at the Dolphins depth chart and I got to Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley. And that's when I finally figured out who the quarterback was. So at this point, I don't want to touch this game because I think Anthony Richardson is going to play. At least that's what they're saying. He's expected to start. Is he a 3.5-point favorite against literally anyone lining up behind center for the Dolphins?
Yeah, you've already seen a couple of books move this down to 3 for your exact reasoning. It's just, you're getting the hook. You know, we all know Miami is just lost right now. And I agree with a lot of people that, you know, they could be another one of those teams that they could be firing their coach in a couple of weeks because it's just all so bad for this team. And it can get away from them pretty quick. But I'm with you here, Chad. It feels like it's too many points for Richardson, who hasn't played in a game in, 3-4 weeks? You know, despite what we want to think about Miami, they still have a great run blocking scheme. Like, they can still run the ball pretty damn well. So we've seen this Colts defense. I'm still embarrassed that I thought it was Dan Quinn when it was Gus Bradley. Like, I confused these middle-aged, older white men, and I thought Gus Bradley was a coach for Washington and Dan Quinn was the DC of the Colts. I'm sorry for besmirching his good name because Gus Bradley's terrible right now. This Colts defense is terrible. They're so bad in so many different ways. So I'm with you, Chad. If I had to pick this game, I'll take the 3.5 on Miami, but it's such a small bet because I have no real read on this game at all.
It's it's a team that's completely lost its mojo, its personality. We all knock Tua. We talk about we don't think he's that good of a quarterback. He's a product of the system. He's gotten the guaranteed money. But there is something to be said for being so good within the system. He was clearly the ignition for getting a Tyreek Hill, getting a Jalen Waddle, Devon A-Chain. Like, the way they are able to move the ball when he is the quarterback, it's just decidedly different. I think it's taking some of the mojo from Mike McDaniel too. Like,
it's weird though. Why would it? I get, like, you want to protect your first round pick and you're the guy you took so early with Anthony Richardson, but the way Flacco has been playing, I feel like he has earned the starting role, and they're about to go into this shit. Like, this is literally the toughest part of their season coming up. Okay, they get Miami, no problem. Then they go at Houston, at Minnesota, home versus Buffalo, at the Jets, and then home versus Detroit. Like, that is just an insane stretch that, in whose mind does Anthony Richardson get you through that? Like, I just think it's really funny they're going back to him where you're 3-3 right now. I could see Flacco steal a couple of those games, and you could still, at the end of it, have a winning record. With Anthony Richardson, I just don't have that type of faith. So I think this has got to be coming from ownership. I just have no other reason why they'd bench Joe Flacco right now.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my question is I think Shane Steichen's a really good coach.
Me too.
And you do wonder, all right, after 2 years, 1 year you weren't with Anthony Richardson. The second year he's in and out, in and out. Who knows if he'll stay healthy the rest of the year? But he's clearly proven the ability to win as a coach when he had Gardner Minshew and Joe Flacco, right? And if this team tanks over the next, what is it, 11 games, is he going to be blamed? Is all of a sudden he fired? Have they pulled the cord too soon? He's a really good coach. Like nobody should be thinking about getting rid of him. But if it's another terrible year and Ursay is like, I don't know what to do here, but I want to stick with Anthony Richardson. We invested too much in him. I got to get rid of the coach. What happens here? Like, let's play this out for a minute. You don't think so?
No, I can't see him getting fired after this year, but I agree with you. I mean, it feels like he is a little bit tired of Anthony Richardson at this point. So maybe that is part of the problem.
The coaches just want to win, man. They just
Exactly.
want to win with the players they can trust. That's it. End of the day. Uh, Seattle at Atlanta. We had a conversation about this one on Sunday night. It's been bouncing around between 2.5 and 3 since we first discussed it. Uh, I've come to the conclusion. I feel like you like Atlanta here, and I'm really curious what your power rating is on this game.
Yeah, I just like the number. So I had this game at 3. It's 2.5. To me, that's where the value is on Atlanta. You know, the view of this Atlanta team is they're not as good as their record states, but I don't think they're as bad as people perceive they are, right? I think offensively, there's a lot to like there, right? They have a two-headed monster in the running back field, and we've seen Pitts has looked better throughout the season at tight end, and we don't really have questions about London. Like, to me, they're pretty solid about what they are. On the flip side, Seattle, their defense, which, you know, they brought in a head coach who's supposed to fix it, between all the injuries they've had now to that defense as well, they're terrible. I mean, we've had multiple weeks now of this Seattle defense just being dominated, not just against the run, but through the air as well. Like they just have no strength right now. And that to me is why I don't really understand this number. It's like, all right, under a field goal, you're giving me the better team at home. I'll be the sucker. I'll take that number. If this number was 3.5, I could be talked in Seattle just because they do have such a good offense with Geno and those weapons on the outside. But, you know, we've seen it for a couple of weeks now. This Seattle team just isn't that good. And it feels like, you know, people overreacted to it, you know, them being 3-0. It's the same thing we talked about the Saints. Me and you were not buying the Saints at all.
Yeah.
And they started off 2-0 and it threw us off the scent. Like we fell into the trap of, the Saints team's not as bad as people perceive. It's like, no, they're pretty bad. And then they've had bad injury luck. Same goes for the Seattle team. They've had some really bad injury luck to their defense. So people betting on this game, they're betting on this being a shootout. They like Seattle at the 3. I talked to a couple of professionals who like Seattle at the 3. So that's why this number's back down to 2.5. And I'll just take the sucker bet and the home favorite under a field goal in this Atlanta team. It's tough to think that they're going to keep covering all these games in a row, but it's just an undervalued team right now to the sports books.
It doesn't feel like a sucker's bet to me. So the reason I asked you your power rating earlier, instead of sort of going through all the research first, is because I was sitting in the airport, you know, at the gate yesterday, doing all my research and
Just firing off some bets.
clicking through my tabs and all that kind of stuff. And the Seattle team is middling at everything, right?
Yeah.
They're middle of the pack in nearly every defensive statistic, whether it's basic or advanced, except they are last in rushing yards per play allowed. Atlanta's defense isn't all that special either.
No.
But
Like they get no pressure. I mean, they
No.
don't have a pass rush.
and
I mean,
they have
good
not
safeties. We'll give them that. They have really
they're
good
not
safeties.
very good in like neither are very good in red zone touchdown percentage allowed. They're pretty low in the NFL. Atlanta's just much, much better offensively, top 10 in several categories, whereas Seattle is middle of the pack. So at the end of my research, I was like, okay, I think I lean Atlanta 2.5.
Yeah.
I just can't shake that they let everyone stay in the game. Like even the Panthers were in it
Yeah.
until they got in their own way and they panthered. You know what I mean? Like the Falcons every game they play seems to barely go in their direction.
Yeah, we talked about coming into that game why we like the Panthers is they can't help it at playing close games.
Yeah.
They come into the game last week, they had 3 wins, one by 1 point, the second by 2 points, and then the last one was an overtime fluky 6-point walk-off win against the Bucks. So I'm with you. Like, there's a reason to be hesitant about this one. There's a reason this number is under 3, but I just think it crossed that key number. That's why I'm just like you. That's why I end up taking Atlanta here, where it's like
Yeah.
not a game maybe I'll love it more come Thursday once I look into it more. But as we sit here right now, it's just a game I bet simply just because I think the number has half a
Playing the
point of
number.
value.
We're just playing the number. You
Yes.
know what I'm excited about for us right now? We have not wallowed in the idea that road favorites went an unprecedented 9-0 and that normally craters our confidence because we like to play against road favorites. We're just going through it. We're going through our numbers. We're going through our process. We're going through the research. I feel no jitters right now.
I like it because I think it's going to give us an extra point on almost every home dog we like this week, honestly. Like,
True.
the books are happy to overreact to it because they know Joe Public, the sucker they are fat. Their pockets are fat right now. They're happy to come in once again and do a bunch of road favorite parlays, teasers, straight up, whatever they can get on these lines. So historically, this should be a good week for us. We should be getting the free points on different home dogs this week. And I think people are going to see this week, there's a couple that really jump out that live up to this.
I want you to remember that. We cannot lose focus that home dogs are still going to be a side we tend to like. And I just want to reiterate, flowers for you, Simon Hunter. Sunday morning, we're putting our picks in. What did you say? Chalk is due. This feels like a chalky week. Thank God we did that. Otherwise, we could have been staring at an 0-5 week. Houston at Green Bay. Green Bay is a 3-point favorite. So I think on Sunday night, you like the Texans, and I persuaded you that 2.5, the Packers, were the play. And now that it's a 3, and I've done a little more research, I think I lean Texans. To me, this is another sort of number play. 2.5, I probably like the Packers. At 3, maybe I'm neutral. Maybe lean Texans at that number. But to me, Joe Mixon makes a huge difference for this Texans team and changes the calculus, I think, on a lot of the home road splits that we see from CJ Stroud.
Yeah, this is a tough one, though. Like we said Sunday night, I can see why people are split on this one. I actually have this at 1.5 Green Bay. So I actually do have a lot of respect for this team model-wise in Houston. And apparently I think they have a good number as well. So I'm with you. As soon as I went to 3, I took a couple bites out of that 3 on Houston at +3. It's just that to me was good value. A couple books now are down to 2.5 on Houston. That feels right. Like if they want to get a decent amount of action on Green Bay, they'll keep it there. They'll bump it back up to 3. Professionals will come back in. That's how they'll get a nice even split probably on this number here. So early though, I still like Houston, especially if we can get 3.5 in contest. If this does get bet up and we are getting a 3.5 number with CJ here, I like that number. Like that's a really good number in this spot where 2 equally matched teams. And we talked about it, home field just isn't what it used to be. Like you do lose half a point to a point that back in the day used to just be a straight -3 across the board. Now it's just not the way it is anymore. So I like Houston. Will this end up being one of our 5? I think Chad just said it. It's all dictated about what the number is going to be, especially in the contest. So if you can still get the 3s out there, I'd grab that now. I can just see this coming down to 2.5 for the rest of the week.
If we had Green Bay 2.5, would you put that in the contest?
Oh man, it depends what else we have in there. Just because, like, it's hard if I'm heavily bet on Houston, I couldn't do it because then it's just gonna be like an awful experience trying to root against my own bet. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. And that also plays into it when we make some of these picks. Like,
oh, definitely.
We've made. We really don't want to be on opposite sides when all of a sudden we're in the contest. All right, you just mentioned home dogs. It's the theme of the week. We haven't had many home dogs to talk about yet, mostly home favorites. Now we got Cincinnati at Cleveland. Cleveland's a 5.5-point home dog. I want to say, like, we throw out any home division dog stats here. Evan had this great stat about Deshaun Watson. Jamarcus Russell lost, he was negative 65.8 total EPA on dropbacks in weeks 1 through 6 in 2009. Since at least 2000, before it was the record low since at least 2000, before Deshaun Watson, who was negative 66.2 this season. Seeing is believing here.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson of 2019 is just not coming back. And we said it last week. We can say it again this week. He is a bad quarterback who either doesn't have the arm to throw the throws, to make the throws that he wants to make, or that the Browns coaches want to call, doesn't have the confidence. And we saw it last week. Like the Eagles got any pressure, his eyes were down and he was going. It's just such a marked difference. You watch a guy, even like Josh Allen last night, Joe Burrow on Sunday night. It's just like these guys, they have such pocket presence and pocket awareness that Deshaun Watson does not have right now. Super hard to bet on the Browns at 5.5, even though in my notes I wrote, is this number too big right now? Is it too tempting to back a road public fave? Like, I don't think we want to do that. So it's really the Browns or nothing here.
Honestly, this is almost my Simon Says bet, but I do think we'll be able to get a 6. So I'm not going to do it yet. This might end up being our big balls bet, Chad. I'm not going to let us off the hook that easy, but you have to take Cleveland in this spot.
I know.
This is such a good number. Cincinnati fucking sucks. Like, they are so lucky that they won that Giants game. They got outplayed by the Giants in almost every way. They had a fluky Joe Burrow ran the ball 40 yards, touchdown, and they did nothing until the final 2 minutes of that game. Like, they're just a bad team in Cincinnati. And the biggest problem right now with Watson and this Cleveland team is he holds on the ball too long and he just takes really bad sacks.
Yeah.
I don't know how big of a problem that's going to be against a Cincinnati team that has one really good pass rusher, and that's about it. Like, there's ways they can counter this Cincinnati team. And defensively, I actually like this matchup for Cleveland's defense against this Bengals team. A lot of what Jim Schwartz wants to do defensively is going to give Joe Burrow problems. So, yeah, this is a gross one, but this is probably going to end up as one of our 5, especially if this gets up to 6.5 in our contest. It's like there's going to be too much movement on this line not to take it, and especially where no one's left, right? The boat is totally empty on Browns bettors. There is no one left. So I haven't been to AC yet. I'm probably get down there tonight or tomorrow. I already can guarantee when I talk to the bookmakers, this is going to be the number 1 bet team, teas, money line, all of it. The Cincinnati team, everyone is just going to be all in on them after that big Sunday night win.
81% of the tickets already on.
That's crazy.
Cincinnati. Similarly, with the money. It's early in the week, so you're not seeing a ton of wise guy money yet to really have that be a factor. But I knew when I saw this, and I was going through it yesterday, sitting in the freaking Detroit airport with my connection that was
this number
delayed.
Should be 4, though. You agree, right? It should be like 4, 3.5.
I agree. Like the number, like, well, it's like it's the perfect example of what you just said, which is we're going to get a point of value on all these home dogs because the public won so emphatically last week. And Cincinnati is one of those teams, right? Like Cincinnati beating up on the Giants, they were a massive public favorite. And even though they looked terrible, even though the only play they made was Joe Burrow running and then Joe Burrow to Yoshivas at the end of the game.
That pass was incredible.
That pass was sick, right? But it's a great example of Joe Burrow, what Joe Burrow can do and Deshaun Watson can't. Get out of the pocket and still be aware of what's happening downfield. I agree with you. The number's just too big. I hate that we're going to want to do it. It's going to be a late entry because we want this number to get as big as possible. And Sunday morning, it's just going to go up is the thing. That's really the challenge. We got to wait and wait and wait. But Jesus Christ, just to put a finer point on it. that Browns rush is still top five. And we
Yeah.
saw how badly that offensive line for the Bengals performed against a Giants pass rush that was missing Thibodeau. Like there's some issues here. So yeah, we're there. We're there. Simon, only one thing can make me comfortable betting on the Cleveland Browns. That's right. It is my Tommy John underwear. I mentioned at the top of the show that we are coming to you live from our Tommy John home studios. Today, my Tommy John home studio is a road studio, but I still am celebrating Tommy John. Great games start with great underwear, and Tommy John makes the greatest. Tommy John makes the most comfortable underwear I've ever worn. They've changed my life. When you're truly comfortable, you can be better. You can be so much better. You can bet on the Cleveland Browns. If you love Simon and I, if you love this show, you'll love Tommy John. Get 25% off your first order right now at TommyJohn.com/favorites. Save 25% at TommyJohn.com/favorites. All right. Eagles visiting the Giants. This line opened at 3.5. It's now down to 3. So someone's been betting on the Giants here. Somehow the Giants offered an inspiring performance in a devastating, winnable loss to the Bengals at home. They never felt like they were out of it until that throw to Yosavash. Meanwhile, the Eagles looked wholly uninspiring in a losable win to one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, a win that was so bad the coach left the field fighting with fans.
Yeah. I mean,
You're speechless.
I am because, like, again, I'm trying to hold it back because I almost went off on Sunday night where it's like you fucking beat the Browns by 4 points and then you badmouth fans who spent a lot of money to go watch that dog shit performance, and then you bring your kids to the press conference. Like, if I was the owner, I would have fired him right then and there. You bring in your kids to a press conference when you beat the Browns by 4. What other team in the NFL does that? Like, it's a joke. You will never catch another coach who barely beats a team, then brings his kids to a press conference when they're going to ask you serious questions. And your deflection is, it's all fun. Look how much fun we're having with my kids up here. I hated Sirianni coming to the year, dude. And now I'm just like, I want us to lose because I want him to be fired. I just can't stand this guy running this team. It's just, Lane Johnson said it best. The offense is constipated. Like, something's wrong where, you watch the Lions. The Lions, they dink and dunk their way down the field, and then a couple big plays here and there that are just so impressive. That's what the Eagles should be. Instead, the Eagles are 3 and out, 6 and out, 5 and out, 6 and out, one big play to A.J. Brown for a touchdown. 3 and out, 3 and out, one big play to Devontae Smith for a touchdown. And that's how they won that game. Like, 2 fluky big plays, Chad. So, wanted to fade these guys really hard. Unfortunately, the model has us at 3. So it's like, shit, if this gets a 2.5, now I'm going to have to bet the Eagles because that's where the value is going to be. So if you can grab the 3.5 now on the Giants, I honestly shockingly, I feel more comfortable taking that right now. But if this gets down to 2.5, I'll probably end up on the Eagles in this spot. But yeah, this Eagles team has some major problems, and I don't know. This feels like a nice time for the Giants team to catch them, but the fear here right now is, if this turns into a back and forth shootout, they don't have the guns right now with Daniel Jones on this Giants team. So maybe we'll have better clearance once we know Neighbors is back. That whole thing too is bizarre. I don't know if you read about the Neighbors thing. He apparently went to like a Travis Scott concert on Wednesday or Friday last week and then didn't play in the game because he still has got concussion issues. I feel like loud noises and flashing lights at a rap concert is not great for concussions. So that's a whole another bizarre scenario going on in New York right now.
Not great for concussions, not great when you like to be asleep by 9 o'clock like me. What's interesting about the Sirianni thing, and I was in the Uber yesterday on the way to the airport, and the driver had Dan Patrick on, and he had Ross Tucker on, who we've had on the show.
Yeah.
And Ross Tucker's a Philly guy. And Tucker was like, he's like, my buddies would react the same way. Everyone in Philly would react the same way that Nick Sirianni is. And he also said that he heard guys like Brandon Graham were telling Sirianni to be more vocal and to be more like he was in 2022 and to let his sort of emotions out a little bit. So he might have gotten some encouragement from the players to act like that.
That's smart. Listen to the players.
Detroit at Minnesota. This one's moving,
Woo.
brother. Moving.
Yeah.
Move from the Vikings -1 to -2 to -2.5.
Oh my God.
Listen, I've been like instinctively, I want to be on the Lions here. And I'm looking for reasons to sell the Vikings. It might just be we're getting to the number, right? Like teams that are covering by 5 points per game historically in the games going forward, 43%, 45% against the spread. So that is the Vikings. Obviously, we have fears with the Lions because of Aiden Hutchinson,
Yep.
but to me, that's the only reason this line is moving. And all of a sudden, it's moved 1.5. We talked about this on Sunday night. Aiden Hutchinson, brilliant DPOY candidate, probably would have won it. Is that 1.5? Like JJ Watt at his most fierce was 1 point. And that's a lot. Myles Garrett, 1 point last year. Is Aiden Hutchinson 1.5? Is that why this line is moving?
Yeah, that's fair too. Where like I only moved a half a point, but I really am tough moving points where it's got to be the quarterback for me to really start moving it a lot. And we talked about though, it's the biggest injury in the NFL this season, no question about it. Like he's taking them from being no doubt top 2, top 3 team in this league to now, we got real questions about their defense. Like that was a big thing for them where they don't really have anyone else that can even do close to what he does. And he was such a game wrecker for them that I feel like every time they needed a big sack or a big takeaway, he was in on it. Like he was either rushing the QB to get an interception or he was taking the QB down. And it's such a brutal loss for this Lions team. So that's fair. That to me, that could be why the Lions moving too much, or it's also the professionals love this Vikings team. And, for them to come in so heavy early in the week like this, I'm honestly shocked by it because you just said it. Like,
yeah,
me and you were about to be the guys that we have to take. We already were like the Lions, but this even more so is like, all right, I guess we're going to join the public once again and take a dog here that's, to me, moved too much, especially 2.5, such a key number. So I need more time on this one because it feels like this is just like last week with Dallas. It feels like it's too easy with this Lions team. Like this is a really good matchup for what this Lions team wants to do offensively. Maybe the whole view of it is we're still, once again, not giving enough credit to Sam Darnold and this Vikings offense and that they won't be just blown out and rolled over, that they'll keep this competitive and they'll somehow steal this game at the end. But I just don't see it. I'm really trying to see it and I just can't. And my model has this at 1. So I have the Vikings favored by 1. I give them respect. They should be home favorites, right? They deserve that much. Now they're up to 2.5. Like in what world? It just feels like it's way too much movement. So I'm with you. This one's a very tempting to take.
It's way too much for a Lions team that is. It is so good. Like this offensive team is amazing. What they are doing is exactly what we thought they were going to do. It's why we handicapped them the way we did with the Cowboys. Like they are a physical team that knows exactly who they are. Jared Goff is the perfect quarterback for this system. They are calling the right plays. They've gotten through the bumps in the road of the early season. This Hutchinson news is bad for the defense, but the offense is still dominant. Obviously, Flores is a great matchup. We'll see what happens, but certainly going to be an interesting game. We're probably going to end up being on Detroit if the number stays where it is or keeps going. We're getting breaking news. We'll get to the Bills game in a second, but according to Tito, according to Ian Rappaport from NFL Network, the Buffalo Bills are acquiring Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns. So what does that do to our bet? We'll have to talk about that as things shake out for sure. Last stats on the Lions and the Vikings. Home division faves, 45% against the spread since 2015. Short home division faves, 3 points or less, 45% the last 20 years. 33-46 against the spread, 41% since 2020. Tennessee Buffalo. Great timing, Tito. Producer Tito freaking produce it. Look, this was going to be chalky and ugly. I don't hate the Bills here. Like, these are the games that Josh Allen just tends to dominate. Say again.
To me, the biggest part of this move for them is it blocks Kansas City from getting Amari Cooper. Like, that's, to me, is why the Bills honestly made this move. It's like
next level chess, Simon. Next level chess.
It helps their team, and it's blocking a team that I thought it was a slam dunk the Chiefs would go get Amari Cooper. Like, he fits exactly what they want to do, a possession receiver. And, you know, I've seen a couple of advanced stats that Amari Cooper is not as good as we perceive. He actually has a ton of drops this year. Not the same receiver he's been in the past, but I still feel like he can win one-on-one matchups, and he still is such a vet that he knows how to get open and make incredible catches when he does catch the ball. It's like, I love this for the Bills. That he's exactly what this team needed, a veteran presence. You know, as fun as it was having these young receivers and Josh Allen that can use anyone he wants, you still want a guy that, you know, on third down, he knows, okay, all my guys are covered. I know exactly where my one guy is going to be, Amari Cooper. Even if he's covered a 50-50 ball, I'm still going to give Amari Cooper that chance. Like, you didn't really have that with all these young receivers in Buffalo. So love the move for them. I honestly wanted to be on Tennessee. Why is this not 10? Like, to me, the number is too short.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So I have this number right where it is. I have it at 8.5. So Motto doesn't think there's any crazy value here. I honestly, when I have a push like this, especially when it's this big, I tend to lean towards the dog. So I technically want to take Tennessee here. Yeah, right. I'm not putting $1 on Will Levis on the road, especially against this Bills team that you just said it. Like, they haven't rolled or blown anyone out in a while because they've had really tough games these last couple of weeks. They've played some really good teams. This should be a cakewalk for them. Like, they're just such a better team. You know, maybe Tennessee's defense gives them a little bit of problems because they do have a good front. But, man, I just love this matchup for this Bills team coming back home. And, you know, I'll check the weather report, but we have a big cold front coming through here up in the Northeast. Maybe some snow, which would be even more of a reason to love this Bills team. We just seen Josh Allen is just really great playing in that type of weather at home. So, not a bet I'm rushing to make right now. I can't see this going up that much more, honestly. The way the NFL has been this season, right, Chad, we talked about, you just don't really see huge dogs like we used to. It rarely keeps going up. It usually comes back down. Like we saw last week with Cleveland, right? Cleveland got up to 9.5. I thought to myself, oh, great. I'll be able to get a 10 for sure by kickoff. I think it was 7.5 by kickoff. So this is tough where if you do want to bet the Bills, I think you can just roll the dice and wait. Maybe it does come back down and cross that number 8.
Carolina at Washington. Washington's a 7.5 point favorite. We'll be on the Panthers. Pass.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to.
Nothing left to say.
Nope. My only thing I'll say is, why not put Bryce Young in at this point? You're 1-5. Let the kid play it out. Just see if you can see anything worth even building up on, because this is it. You're going to lose out. You know you're probably going to take a quarterback at the top of the draft. You might as well try to showcase a little bit of Bryce Young, and then maybe you can trade him for a bag of peanuts at the end of the season. But to keep starting Andy Dalton is just stupid at this point.
Turns out we got like one dead cat bounce out of Andy Dalton, and everything else we saw from that game has been a mirage.
Yeah, that cat's dead.
That cat has bounced down. It's now bounced into the ground. It's never coming back up.
No.
Las Vegas Raiders at Los Angeles Rams. Rams 6.5 point favorites. You talked about it on Sunday night. You're thinking Cooper Kupp might come back. The word is he should be back for week 7. I haven't seen if that's official yet, but you were saying grab the 5.5. It was sort of a mini Simon Says-esque moment because you felt this number would go to 6.5. That's exactly what happened.
Yep. And now, unfortunately, have to play the other side. We're supposed to take the Raiders now that it has crossed that key number of 6 to 6.5. So I'll have more for this game come Thursday when Chad just said, once I do know what the injury reports are, and I can get a better number on this one right now. Because right now, I have it right at 6. So it's like, I thought the number would go up once we got news about who was going to play in this game. It has gone up. Am I rushing to bet the Raiders right now when I don't even know who their starting quarterback is? No, I am not in any way. So another game I'm happy just to wait and see if this line keeps growing up.
Can I tell you something,
note from Evan?
No.
So
Uh,
Cleveland just moved to 6. So that's why I didn't
Cleveland
make it
moved to
Simon
6.
Says. So, fucking A, dude. I might have to rush and go take that 6 while it's still up.
Wait, but you're going to take the 6 on Cleveland is a
Cleveland.
6-point dog. Is a 6-point dog. So you should be glad it was at 5.5.
I know. I'm saying I'm glad. That's why I didn't make it Simon Says. I was
Oh,
going to
that's
make
why
it
you
Simon
didn't
Says
make
at
it
five
Simon
and a half.
Says.
But I was like, this number should go up to 6.
Yeah.
There it is. It's at 6 now. You can go grab that if you want the Browns, which I do.
Go get the Browns +6. You know what's interesting on the Raiders? One thing I want to say quickly is I like when I was doing the research yesterday, I'm not looking to bet on the Raiders right now, but I do think that there's a little bit of a misleading attitude about the Raiders because of what happened with the Steelers. They were in that game. Like late in the first half, they had just picked off Justin Fields. A roughing penalty kept the drive alive. The Steelers scored a touchdown. Then Boswell kicked a 65-yard field goal.
Yeah.
They were down 22-7. They had a touchdown called back for a penalty. The next play, Abdullah fumbles at the 1-yard line. I'm glad we didn't bet them, but the score was much worse than the box score indicates. So that's why I like 6.5 doesn't scare me as much.
And on the flip side, we've talked ad nauseum about how bad this Rams team is altogether and how many injuries they've had. And
Yep.
Cooper Kupp's coming back. That doesn't fix that their offensive line has just been terrible and horribly banged up. And, that's still the strength of this Raiders team, right? Their front four is what keeps them in those games. So, yeah, just something to keep an eye on in that matchup.
Game of the week. Game of the first half of the year. Kansas City at San Francisco. The fundamental questions. Right now, San Francisco is a 1-point favorite. Down from 1.5. It was at 1, went up to 1.5, now back down to 1. What has changed since the Super Bowl last year? That is the fundamental questions. Like last season, the Niners statistically more impressive in every offensive category. But the Chiefs, much more impressive and amongst league leaders in advanced defensive metrics. They're third in pass rush, eighth in rush D, 10th in red zone touchdown percentage. The Niners, by the way, we have talked about all of their issues without Christian McCaffrey in the red zone. So this past week against the Seahawks Thursday night, they were 3 for 5 for touchdowns in the red zone. One of their 3 field goals was from the 23. So let's count that as 3 for 6. So still not thriving in the red zone where the Chiefs will thrive in the red zone defensively. And then we got Mahomes as a dog. 3 or less, 25, 8-1 against the spread. So tell me, what has changed since the Super Bowl to make us want to take the Niners here?
Simon Says go grab that +1.5 on that Chiefs team right now. A couple books out there still the +1.5. You got to go grab it. Like this, Chad just gave you the stat about Mahomes the dog. It's not even that. What team do you have more confidence in, even more so this year than the other team in the fourth quarter? It's got to be the Chiefs. Like, what team has won a bunch of games this year in the fourth quarter? The other team has melted in the second half. They tried to blow that Seahawks game, and they really did. Like, letting that kick return, everything. They're just, something's missing. Something's wrong with this 49ers team right now. And I think we both nailed it talking about the McCaffrey thing. That, to me, is the difference. They're, instead of getting 7, they keep putting up 3. And it's only going to get tougher against this Chiefs defense, who is just brutal to try to score on once you get in the red zone. They're just, Spags knows exactly what to do once the field gets really small and tight. So I love this matchup for this Chiefs team. And, the fact that I can get them a +1.5, I'm going to take it right now because I could easily see this flipping to being them -1 by kickoff. It's just professionals, public. How do they not all come in on this Chiefs team in this spot? They just altogether been the most complete team this season. Now you throw in Chad, they're coming off a bye week. We know Andy Reid coming off a bye week. It's just the perfect storm. I'm so glad you didn't make the exact decision. Let me steal this one. Simon Says.
I was thinking about it. I had another one.
I was waiting for it. You were lining up there to say it right before you pass it to me, and I was like,
I was.
it.
Oh, I'm gracious like that.
Yeah.
West Coast time. I'm not as sharp as I normally.
I know what you're waiting for.
You do, don't you?
I do.
Sunday Night Football, New York Jets at Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, this is breaking news as of the last hour, 90 minutes or so. Mike Tomlin says Russell Wilson may start. coincidentally or not, over the last, say, 12 hours, could be because there was leaks about Devontae Adams, but this line has moved from Steelers -1.5 to Steelers +1.5. That truly changes the calculus on this game. Because if you ever want to bet Mike Tomlin, it's Mike Tomlin as a home dog, especially as a short home dog. So I don't know what to do here.
Yeah, I like the Jets, especially if it's Russell Wilson. When you dive into the numbers in this Pittsburgh team, and now it sounds crazy, but Justin Fields is the reason this team is 4-2. And I think the line movement reflects that. Like, Devontae Adams isn't moving the line 3 points. I tell you that much. Like, a guy who hasn't played in weeks at his age, how many snaps is he going to be playing for this team, right? They're going to slowly revamp him into this offense. So, to me, once it was known that Russell Wilson was going to take first-team reps in practice all week, that's what this is really the movement to me is based off of. So I like this for the Jets. You're going from having one of the best rushing quarterbacks in all of football. I mean, the guy ran for 2 touchdowns last week. Like,
yeah,
anytime the pocket breaks down, he's incredible at getting out of it. Russell Wilson hasn't been a good rushing quarterback in like 5 years. Like, this guy is old and slow. His arm is not what it used to be. And they have one good receiver in Pickens. Like, okay, now we put Sauce on him to shadow him. Who's Russell Wilson turning to now? It's like, I do not. Tomlin rarely makes really bad moves. This is a really bad move to me. Like, he's too loyal to the veterans and the OGs in this league where, I get it. He gave the man his word in the middle of summer. That's why
what it feels like.
That's what it feels like to me too. Like, it's just, I get it, dude. Tomlin's old school is a man of honor, but you're 4-2, and your strength right now is the fact that you have a running quarterback behind a terrible offensive line. And I just do not understand this move. Especially, you just saw Josh Allen rip up this Jets defense anytime you wanted to run the ball. Like, they don't have the guys on the outside to keep up with running quarterbacks. I just do not get this at all. So I'm taking the Jets now, especially it's under 2. I know it's a little chalk, and I'm with Chad. It's like I kind of want to be on Pittsburgh. So my hope is we get the same thing with the Colts last week where this number gets up to 2.5, and then they pull the rug. It was just a diversion the whole week, and Fields is the starter. It was never going to be Russell Wilson. They just wanted a team to have to prepare for both quarterbacks. And then I'll put a larger bet on Pittsburgh because I do want to be on Pittsburgh here, especially as a home dog. But at this number, at 1.5, I'm going to take the Jets, especially if it's going to be Russell Wilson at QB.
Simon, it is time for the executive decision.
There we go.
Baltimore is playing at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a 3.5-point favorite. This was my first game that I eyeballed on Sunday night. It was Bucks 4.5. The pros hit it immediately. It's now 3.5. It might have been because I was saying how much I liked it at 4.5. And the reason I like this is because of what the Bucks can do against the run with Vita Vea in the middle, and what Baker can do against a really bad Ravens pass D. Like, we're going to talk about the Ravens rush D is borderline. Rush offense is borderline historic, and their rush D is great, top 5 in the league. There's no doubt about it. But like, this Bucks D is dreadful in coverage and against the run. 2 things that Lamar and the Ravens can take advantage of. I understand that. But this Ravens defense has been so bad that it gives every single quarterback a chance to stay in the game. And I do think what we'll see with the Bucks that we didn't see with the Commanders, who also had a chance to backdoor cover on this, they've actually got better weapons. Like, Mike Evans is a top-notch receiver. We saw with Godwin how well he can play. That middle of the field is going to be open. Like, I also want to fade the road public favorite, despite last weekend, since 2023, 2024. Since 2013, the road public favorite, 48% against the spread. Home dogs of more than a field goal off of a win of 14 plus points, 63% against the spread the past 20 years. It's just a good spot for Baker. Give me the Bucks exec decision.
Yeah, I love that stat. And we talked, there's going to be a bunch of home dogs this week that you're going to get a free point of value. this is the game we already lost that point, right? The 4.5, it's gone. It's 3.5. Same with the Giants. Giants were 4.5. Now it's down to 3.5, 3. Clearly the professionals took a stand on those games because you talk about they're just those numbers are too high for those matchups against those teams. And you nailed it here with your Tampa breakdown. My only hesitation, if people don't put your full unit yet on this Tampa line, what's the deal with Mike Evans? Well, I need to know what's going on with Mike Evans because that is a key to me to what makes that offense just tick. There's no one like him in the NFL in the red zone right now. Like him and Baker especially, they're so good in the red zone together, setting up easy touchdowns. I think Baker's up to 15 touchdowns. And earlier today, I did that show Roundtable, which if you haven't listened to it, go check it out. It's in the Action app, and you can find it in the Action Network on all different podcasts. Brandon Anderson had a great bet about Tampa being one of the more undervalued teams right now. You can get them at 22-1 to be the 1 seed in the NFC. Like this, if they win this game, they pull off this upset, that immediately will drop down to 15-1, 16-1. Like that's a huge line mover, this win right here. So that's the type of thing where if you're hesitant, you don't want to bet the money line here because Lamar is, this is another Evans. I think he's up to 23-1 straight up against the NFC. I totally understand the hesitation. I mean, me and Chad are no doubt going to have this in the money line round robin, but matchup wise, you nailed it with the Vita Vea take though. Like he's gonna shut down what's been the motor of this team right now, which is Derrick Henry. Like everything is really run through him. And yes, we've seen Lamar be great this season passing the ball. Honestly, like I've been so impressed by how well he's been passing the ball. But this feels like a letdown spot for this team. And I know it sounds stupid, but historically, he doesn't play as great in his home state of Florida. Like, I mean, Chad probably doesn't remember this, but I always remember this because it was such a crazy bet at the time. He went down to Miami as I think it was like an 8-point favorite on a Thursday night. He got absolutely rolled by Miami. I think he lost by like 5 or 6. And it's just these type of scenarios where it's like he's a big favorite. Everyone's blowing smoke. He heads down to Florida and his team gets rolled. It's happened before with this Lamar team. So the trends like it. We like the number. I'd grab it right now, like Chad just said, at 3.5. But don't go too crazy because if Mike Evans is out, this easily will go back up to 4.5. Like that's how much, to not just my model, but sportsbook models, that Evans is worth to this spread, especially this team. So our big reason is we think there's an advantage on this Bucs team that will attack the secondary of Baltimore. I mean, the DC is this 32-year-old, and I think we all can clearly say he's above his head at this point. Like their defense, the teams can move the ball against them. Like you said, Washington last week, that shouldn't have been close. They should have dominated that game, and they couldn't put them away. Like they kept letting Washington stay in it just because they can't stop the pass. Their secondary just isn't good enough right now. So Chad nailed it. I like this matchup. We like the plus 3.5 with Tampa.
All right. So at the end of it, we got some games that we think we'll be able to carry over to Thursday.
We got one more game, right?
Yeah, we do. We have one more game on Monday night. The Chargers at Arizona. Arizona is a 2.5-point dog.
You know what we're supposed to do.
I don't want to.
You have to, though.
I don't want to. And so it's funny. I actually didn't even put a ton of notes into the script for this one because it just felt weird to say, are we going to bet the Cardinals here?
I know. I hate it. We have to. We have to take the Cardinals at this number. It's just, why is this not a pick? Are the Chargers really minus 2.5 better than this Arizona team, especially on the road? I don't know. It just feels like it's too much love and respect to a horrible team that, I guess Arizona is a bad team because I'm saying all they've done this year is beat bad teams. And when they play good teams, they kind of falter. And I feel like the same here. I feels like we're getting a good number on an Arizona team that they're outdoors in the element. Every little thing that could have gone wrong went wrong for them, right? It just felt like everything went wrong for them. And now we're getting a free 2 points of value on Arizona. I hate it too. And that should make us want to even take even more. We both hate it, but we know this is the right number and the right spot to take this Arizona team. So I'm looking forward to hearing the sharp calls. I know some professionals who very early came in heavy on this Chargers team because they like the matchup of their offensive front of the Chargers versus these defensive front of Arizona. this is a matchup where you can bully ball them. Totally get it. But at what point does that number move too much? So that to me is where, not telling you to bet it right now. I think you can, another number you can be patient on. Maybe we'll get a 3 in the next day or two.
Atlanta 2.5. We talked about Green Bay 2.5. We talked about obviously Cleveland now at +6. Detroit
6.5.
No.
Yeah, Evan just gave us an update.
Oh my God.
I know. We're gonna have to take it. It's brutal.
It's going to be 6.5 in the contest now.
I think it could get up to 7.5. I mean, this is steaming up right now.
Detroit 2.5, Las Vegas 6.5, KC 1.5, Jets 1.5, Bucks 3.5, Cards +2.5. Like, Jesus, I'm looking at this. I'm like, oh my God, this just has the makings of an exhausting, excruciating weekend filled with tracking illegal procedures by Paris Johnson. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is presented by Bet365. And now, new Bet365 customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Sign up using promo code FAVORITES, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $200 in bonus bets. Those bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, North Carolina, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Simon and I will return with our next episode of The Favorites on the Action Network YouTube page Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, to cover the rest of our Week 7 best bets. Sign up for the Favorites contest, favorites.actionnetwork.com. Download us from Spotify, Apple Pods, wherever you get your pods. Rate, review, subscribe. Leave us 5 stars. Say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until next time, love you.